Good morning, Digit fam, and happy weekend eve. You may have heard me mention once or twice how I was tired these past 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to sleeping in tomorrow. Not that I don't love talking to you every day. Indeed, it's arguably the best part of my day. So let's get this day started. It is August 23rd, 2019, and this is your Digit Daily. Even though there was no embargo on Note 10 devices, pretty much all the Note 10 reviews dropped yesterday. And I respect that. Too often these days, you see reviews come out too quickly, just in a race to be first. I'll be honest, every time I see the headline, hands-on review, I throw up in my mouth a little bit. You need time with a phone to see what it's really all about. Hell, I don't even publish a headphone review until I've worn them for 2 weeks, and they start to get all smelly. That was probably too much information. Okay, moving on. So what are the big boys saying about the Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus? Let's take a look. First, Android Authority, who says, quote, "The Note 10 Plus is a wonderful phone, but its priorities have clearly changed. Samsung is no longer trying to attract the do anything and everything crowd, but rather the do what you do well and make it look good in the process crowd." Incidentally, our Note 10 Plus podcast review went up at the same time as the written review, and our headline read, "Leading, but not a leader." The Note 10 used to be the do-anything phone, and it's still a great phone, but it's not necessarily the gold standard anymore, which is a bit of a shame. Moving on, Gizmodo calls the Note 10 Plus damn near perfect, saying, quote, "While no phone is utterly impeccable, the Note 10 Plus comes incredibly close. It's got big power, big specs, and the biggest, most glorious display you can get right now." Wow, would you like a mop for the drool there, buddy? Glorious? Seriously? Alrighty, here's the Verge. There are plenty of big, powerful Android phones. They mostly cost hundreds less than the $1,100 starting price of the Note 10 Plus. Samsung sells the Galaxy S10 Plus, which is nigh indistinguishable from a Note 10 Plus to the average person. Unless you count that stylus. It probably seems weird to the uninitiated, but Note people know using a stylus on your phone is great. Well, Dieter, just for the record, Palm Trio users know that styler are pretty great too. But we take your meaning. The S Pen is wonderful. $400 wonderful? Yeah. And here's Engadget. Quote, "If you just want a big phone, you can easily pick up a OnePlus 7 Pro or a Galaxy S10 Plus for much less money, and you'll probably have a great time with them. But if you want a big phone that lets you do more than the smartphone basics, and you don't mind dealing a few quirks, you won't do better than the Galaxy Note 10 Plus right now." Now, see, this teaser makes me want to read the review. Do more of what? What quirks? Link in the show notes. And finally, MKBHD, quote, "If you are already a Note fan, this one is going to be a great phone you're going to like. And if you weren't already into the idea of a Galaxy Note, this one won't change your mind." That's oddly vague, but alrighty. Here's my take, with zero hands-on time, by the way. The Note 10 Plus is a great phone. It's got top-tier specs in almost every category, and I'm really intrigued by the camera features it showed off on stage. But I don't think this is the Android gold standard anymore, and it's not just because of the headphone jack, but that for sure did not help. I agree with David in that the Note used to be the do literally anything phone, and now it's a great phone, but it's not the best at everything because it doesn't do everything. It's settled back to the pack, and maybe it's the best at photography or its screen quality. I mean, how do you top glorious, really? But is it the best at, say, gaming? Or the best at audio, or the best at durability? I'm not so sure anymore. Samsung clearly prioritized looks over utility, which is a shame because the Note 9 still looked great, but it did more. I'm not saying don't buy it, but I am saying it's no longer the default blind choice as the best of the best of the best. With honors. So with that said, let's head on over into the Roundup! Bloomberg has a gaggle of reports for the upcoming devices from Cupertino in 2019. These include 3 new iPhones, new iPads, new MacBooks, and possibly new audio hardware. One neat report included video capability, making it possible to retouch, apply effects, and color correct, and more on live video as it's being recorded, which is pretty impressive. Here's also hoping that the MacBook keyboard got a revamp as well. The last time you got a delivery, you may have felt inclined to leave a tip, and if you did, there's a decent chance that all you did was put a few extra bucks into the pocket of the company the driver worked for. But not anymore. It seems in the past that both Amazon and DoorDash use driver tips to meet the base pay requirements for their drivers. So if a driver is supposed to get $20 an hour, and if they get $8 in tips, then the company pays out $12 and voila, $20 an hour. Well, if that sounds shady AF, it is. So Amazon and DoorDash are not doing that anymore. They've both adopted fully transparent pay structures for their employees, and good for them for not being shady anymore, but bad for them for being shady in the first place. And speaking of shady, bad pun, I get it, Tesla initiated Project Titan last year in secret. The mission? To replace potentially defective parts installed on solar panels on the roofs of retail centers across the US. 7 Walmarts had roof fires and sued Tesla for negligence. Tesla denied that the solar roofs were to blame and then launched this secret program, so I don't know about you, but I totally believe them. The Irish Examiner spoke to former contractors from Apple who used to listen to Siri recordings, up to 1,000 per shift. Of course, the key word here is former. When Apple announced that they were suspending the evaluation program, guess what happened to the evaluators? But hey, at least Apple isn't listening to you sex anymore. But still, 1,000 recordings per shift? That would be enough to make someone go a little crazy, methinks. Maybe we're all better off. We dip into the Reddit pool to ask the question which really only barely makes sense, but here it is. What is the, quote, cheap wine that tastes like expensive wine in an expensive bottle of your profession or hobby? And I think what they're asking is, what are the really overrated parts of your job? And I respect that. One lifeguard said that if he gives people instructions in an English or Australian accent, people seem to listen more closely, which is interesting. And our next story is really important, so I'm going to try something. And finally, we've got 2 stories here that discuss the wildfires taking place in the Amazon. The first discusses how at one point the fire got so bad that the skies in Sao Paulo darkened for about an hour at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But Wired suggests that people are to blame, not just dry climate. The satellite imagery suggests that fires are starting near transportation corridors. If a fire starts in the middle of nowhere, that's probably natural. But if it starts just off Highway 101, well, let's just say it was probably helped. The president of Brazil has been pushing a number of economic policies designed to cultivate the forest for farming and industry, which is good for profit, but bad for breathing everywhere else in the world. The Amazon makes up a lot of oxygen, but only if it's not burned down. I'd like to apologize to our Australian listeners who right now are thinking to themselves, that was supposed to be an Australian accent? Crikey, someone's got to tell him. So that's going to do it for today's Digit Daily. If you'd like to learn more about any of these stories, check out the links in the show notes and subscribe to our daily newsletter on Digit.com. And if you like what you heard, subscribe, leave a review, and don't forget to tell your friends about DigitDailyPod.com. Once again, I'm Adam Dowd, Dead Technology on Twitter, and we'll talk again on Monday.